You would think from their reactions that they were getting arrested for something stupid, something silly, something they knew they would be hopping and skipping and jumping right back out of jail over. But oh no, these are the faces of two women who have just been involved in a brutal, deadly stabbing event that would leave 5 children without a mother. You're going to definitely want to buckle up. You're going to want your sippers from the cuppeth and your true crime blankie for today's video.
Hey, 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 welcome to the Sofa Squad. Sipping from the cup.
Hello, Sofa Squad, and welcome back to the sofa. This is a sofa, and that's a Cheez-It. That's the goldfish, and I mean it. I really am trying to make mean it rhyme with Cheez-It, and it just doesn't happen, but that doesn't mean I'm going to give up. My name is Paul, if you're new to the sofa. If you're not new to the sofa, my name's Austin. Okay, Austin. You wanna know why? Because I have this little bag here that I carry stuff up and down the stairs with. It's from the Cure concert, and I just looked down and saw where they were in Austin in May of 2000. I don't know what it says from here, but that's why we're going with Austin. And I think that's a good name, okay? You know, just is what it is, okay? Anyways, we are actually talking about a case that is in Texas, but just not in Austin. So it's funny how that works out that way. But today's case is insanely tragic. It's still unfolding. And depending on when this video gets put up, I might like do an interjection towards the end to add to it. But I wanted to go ahead and get out what we are finding out so far. Now, of course, let's talk about the area that this took place in and kind of set the stage for the horrific crime that would unfold. Del Rio sits in the far southwestern corner of Texas. It's roughly 3 hours west of San Antonio and just across the Rio Grande from Ciudad Acuña, Mexico. Now, this is home to approximately around, like, say, 35,000 residents, and the city has been a gateway between two countries where cultures, family, and commerce have crossed paths for generations. Now, the landscape that surrounds Del Rio is very unmistakably, like, very southwest Texas. We're talking wide open desert terrain that stretches for miles beneath expansive, beautiful skies with rugged hills, native brush, and mesquite trees, which defines much of the countryside. At first glance, it can seem harsh and pretty unforgiving. It's a landscape that's shaped by heat, drought, and time. Now, running through that rugged terrain is the Rio Grande, the river that has shaped the Del Rio's history since really its earliest days. It's more than just an international border. The river has long since been a source of life, trade, recreation, and connection between neighboring communities on both sides. Now, adding to that contrast are these crystal clear waters of the San Felipe Springs. These are some of the largest natural springs in Texas, and they provide a constant flow of fresh water that transforms this really otherwise arid landscape into an oasis. Now, just a short drive away lies the Amistad National Recreation Area. This is where boating, fishing, hiking, camping, it all attracts outdoor enthusiasts from across Texas. Combined with nearby Laughlin Air Force Base and a historic downtown district filled with locally owned businesses, Del Rio offers the feel of like a close-knit community where neighbors know one another and daily life moves at a quieter pace than many of the larger Texas cities. As evening falls, downtown Del Rio comes alive with restaurants, local shops, and families enjoying the warm Texas nights. It's the kind of place that feels ordinary. I hate to even use the word normal, but like what you just expect in a town, where kids are running around, they're on their bikes, neighbors wave at each other from front porches. It has a nice close-knit feel. But in the afternoon of June 25th, 2026, that normalcy would literally be shattered. So let's take a moment and let's look at some of the timeline that unfolded on that fateful day. So according to investigators, Caroline Pena was attacked outside of a residence on the 800 block of East 10th Street. This is near the intersection of Main Street and East 10th. This is just off Veterans Boulevard. Now, the area sits within one of Del Rio's busiest corridors. It's surrounded by homes, businesses, and it's just a short distance from a really busy Sonic drive-in. So according to investigators, this whole situation began to unfold shortly after 2 p.m. on that 800 block of East 10th. Now, one thing to keep in mind is this isn't like a secluded alley. This isn't some little back road. This is in the middle of a busy residential and commercial area where neighbors are home, businesses are open, traffic is moving through the intersection, like everybody's going about their day, okay? So this wasn't like in the cloak of night or whatever, right? So within minutes, witnesses start calling 911 after they spot Caroline Pena lying wounded on a very highly visible street corner just down the road from that Sonic that we talked talked about. Emergency responders would arrive rather quickly, and they rushed her to the Valverde Regional Medical Center as the investigators began securing the scene and collecting like surveillance footage and all of this type of stuff from surrounding areas. Now, by late afternoon, all 3 suspects are in custody, and video of their arrest will soon spread across social media, and this draws widespread attention well beyond Del Rio, obviously. Now, despite all the efforts of like the first responders, the medical staff, everybody, sadly, Caroline Pena will lose her life to this event. And by the next day, the prosecutors will upcharge all 3 of those women to the big charge, the murder charge, right? Not just some kind of assault, not just any of that. They've done the big deed. Now, because this was something that took place like out in the open, people have videotape, like there's businesses with cameras, all this type of stuff. There's going to be a lot of witnesses in this case, okay? So it'll be interesting to see how that plays into whether this ends up going to trial, who talks about who tells on each other, who gets a deal, who doesn't, all of the things. So let's take a moment and learn more about Caroline. She was simply known as Caro to those who loved her. She was a daughter, friend, and above all, she was a very devoted mother. Now, she was a lifelong resident of Del Rio, and her path wasn't really always an easy one from what I can see. She became a mother as a teenager. She went to Del Rio's Cradles in the Classroom program. Now, this was something that would give young parents the opportunity to continue their education while raising their children. And rather than allowing those really early challenges to define her, she would spend the years that followed building the life that she wanted for her and her family. Now, her friends would describe her as somebody who was like born to be a mother. Like, she was just this amazing mother. This was like a gift that she had, and she loved her kids and loved raising them. Now, she will leave behind 5 children. This includes a teenage son who was preparing to graduate from high school, a milestone that she had obviously dreamed of celebrating alongside of him that was robbed from the 2 of them. Those closest to her remember that she would never hesitate to help others. Now, whether that meant that she would share baby clothes with a struggling young mother, furnishing a friend's first apartment, or simply really just showing up when somebody needed her, people spoke very highly of her. One lifelong friend said that while people often say it takes a village to raise a family, friends said that she wasn't just part of the village, she was the village, okay, if that puts things into perspective. But she was also remembered for this very bright smile, warm hugs, and a laugh that was very unmistakable that her friends would say like you could recognize this from anywhere. And people who knew her said that, you know what, she never stopped working to create a better future. She earned her own home, her own truck, and more importantly, she built a stable life for the 5 children who literally meant everything to her. Now, just a couple of days beforehand, she was just doing very normal stuff. Nobody would have guessed that this would happen. June 24th, she's hanging out with one of her friends, Christina. They're, hanging out, doing stuff, visiting with her daughter, doing all the things. And then she would go home the following afternoon around 1:35. She calls Christina, but she wasn't able to get a hold of her. And neither of these women would really know that this was going to be some of the last times that they ever saw each other or the tragedy that was fixing to unfold. So let's talk about the incident. Let's talk about a little bit of the evidence that we know we have. So one of the biggest thing here is, yes, there's going to be, witnessing this, whatever, but also the biggest thing is nearby homes, doorbell cameras, okay? This is one of those things in today where if you go out in public on any level, you are most likely being recorded. And it works to somebody's benefit, but it also works to others, not their benefit, right? Oftentimes these crimes that we follow, in these cases we follow, so much evidence comes down to like Ring doorbell, Nest cameras, whatever, home system somebody has. And that is the case with this as well. So according to the investigators, the camera captured key moments of the confrontation as it unfolded in broad daylight. Now the footage will show Caroline arriving at the East 10th Street residence in her black pickup truck. So a verbal confrontation begins with this woman named Kyandra Faz, and then a black Chrysler pulls up nearby. Now detectives will say that Amaya, Kitty Diaz, and Kitty Diaz immediately exit the vehicle and walk towards Caroline. Now, according to the probable cause affidavit, Cookie is seen holding what investigators say is a knife before the confrontation quickly turns violent. Now, detectives will allege that the footage shows Caroline being wounded before Kitty Diaz and Kyandra join the physical assault. Now, within seconds, the investigators will say that the 3 women flee the scene together, and they leave her just gravely gravely injured on the side of one of Del Rio's busiest streets to just sit there and die a slow death. Now, as you can imagine, for investigators, this is like creme de la creme evidence, okay? Not only do you have this video capturing the event, right? Cars involved, this and the other. You have motorists, you have nearby residents who see this happen. They're calling 911 right away. So the evidence against these three women is going to be airtight. Now, let's talk about tampering with evidence now that we're speaking about evidence. So as detectives would work the crime scene, another team of officers began searching for these three women that were on the video camera attacking her. Now, according to investigators, it did not take long to find them, right? So like roughly about 2 hours after the attack, the police locate Kitty and Kitty Diaz at a residence somewhere else over in Del Rio. Now, what investigators documented there would become another significant piece of the prosecution's case. So according to the probable cause affidavit, the sisters were no longer wearing the distinctive tank tops that were seen in the surveillance footage. Now, investigators would also observe that both women appeared to have recently showered. They had wet hair, fresh clothing, all the things, right? Now, also during the search, detectives say that they recovered clothing believed to match what the women had been wearing during the confrontation. Prosecutors allege that those actions were an attempt to conceal or destroy evidence connected to the attack. Now, as a result, Kitty Diaz now faces an additional felony charge of tampering with physical evidence. This is separate from the murder charge that she shares with her sister and Kyandra Faz. Now, of course, we'll have to see if any of this holds up in the court systems and what comes through and if it goes to trial and all that. One thing that's unique with this case is all three of the women are facing the same murder charges here. So let's talk about the law of parties rule and law in Texas. So why are all three women facing identical murder charges when investigators allege that only one person had the knife and did that? Well, the answer lies in Texas law, and it's under what's commonly known as the law of parties. Now, prosecutors can seek to hold multiple participants criminally responsible if they knowingly acted together during the commission of a crime. So according to investigators, surveillance footage, and witness statements, this indicates that while one woman allegedly inflicted the fatal stab wounds, the other two actively participated in the assault. Now, prosecutors contend that those actions make all three criminally responsible under Texas law. And of course, we'll have to see how this ultimately plays out in the courtroom if it goes to trial. So let's talk about what exactly we know now. So as the investigation continues, Del Rio Police Chief Frank Ramirez says that detectives are still working to untangle exactly what led to the deadly confrontation. Now, rather than pointing to like a single argument or some isolated event, he says that investigators are examining what he describes as a, quote, pretty good amount, end quote, of possible motives, suggesting the relationship between Caroline and the three defendants may have involved multiple layers of conflict. Now, of course, at this point of this recording, the police have not identified a motive. If that changes before this gets published, I'll do a little insert somewhere in here to update the video. Now, the chief also addressed speculation circulating online, and he would say despite photographs and videos showing other individuals near the scene, Ramirez said that investigators have found no evidence that any additional people participated in the assault. Now, as a result, the police do not anticipate making any further arrest in connection with her murder. So far, all three defendants have requested court-appointed attorneys as the case moves through the Texas court system. Now, of course, for me, the biggest question at this point is why did this happen? What was going on? It definitely sounds like there was some kind of historic, conflict between all of these women that escalated on this day. And I imagine in time we'll find this out. This doesn't seem like it was something random. It seems like obviously she went over the house, a confrontation took place, and then these sisters show up and just the unthinkable happens, and it leaves a community, it leaves a family, it leaves a life devastated. So that is it for today. It's kind of a short video, but this is just a case that's unfolding and I wanted to get it out there. So let me know what you think down in the comment section below. And while you are down there, if you could drop off some little goldfish or Cheez-Its for Roscoe and Spirit, myself, Bo and Luke, and you, the Sofa Squad. You make the channel possible. It would not be here without you, and I greatly appreciate it. Now, until we get down in that comment section, do all the stuff we just been talking about, I'll see y'all soon.
Welcome to the Sofa Squad, sipping from the cup that hey, come laugh with the Sofa Squad. Can't roll my damn eyes hard enough.